There you go. The first HubSpot user group for Adelaide for 2024. Today you've got myself, Ryan Jones, from Refuel Creative, and to my right,
there's Ollie from Refuel Creative as well.
just hit the record button. So, thank you for joining us today. Really want to go through some important changes and also a bit of housekeeping for you for the year, just to get off on the right note. But these sessions, we like to try and have a bit of fun. If you'd like to make jokes at Ollie's expense, please start loading them into the chat right now.
It's easier when I'm French, isn't it?
Yeah, you feel free to put your own jokes in. But let's try and make this as interactive as possible. So any questions that come up along the way, or any sort of burning questions that you've got coming into today, throw them in the chat and we will go through them as we go. How does that sound, Ollie?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. Going. So one of the biggest things that we wanted to talk about right off the bat today is the email marketing changes that hopefully you've heard about at this point. I feel like they've been getting a pretty big push from the internet in general. But it'd be interesting to know from those on the stream today, what product with HubSpot are you using? Are you using Marketing Free? Are you using Sales Enterprise? Because the solutions here differ a little bit depending on the product that you've got. So the big change with the email marketing is, and while I wait for the many influxes to come in of people letting me know what product they're using. The big change with the email marketing really is around Google and Yahoo and even Big Pond in Australia making changes to the verification records that are required for email. Now, this seems like, thank you Monique, you're on Pro, that's easy fixed. Now this seems like a really big change, this authentication change. And what this is basically doing is it's saying at a domain name level, which platforms, which tools, which solutions are actually authorized to send email through your domain. Because I'm sure at this point you've all received an email at some point that's pretending to be one of your colleagues, pretending to be from them, saying, hey, have you got a sec? You know, our ATO bill's due this month and I really need you to go and buy a whole lot of iTunes cards so you can pay the bill. You know, it's some of them are quite laughable and some of them are quite disturbing. So we've all received emails like that at some point. And what these email verification records do is they say, hey, look, this email was sent by a platform that wasn't authorized to send email on the behalf of this domain. So Google go, well, we're automatically going to throw that in the bin. So what it does is results in more email going into your spam folders and less email going into your inbox, which is really what we want. Like if it's not actual genuine email, let's throw it in the bin and do something else. But of course, what this also means for us as marketers is our genuine emails, if we don't think about this in advance, will end up in the bin too. And a lot of us don't really think about just how many platforms we use. You know, we might have Office 365 or Google Workspace as our main email tool. They go through and help you set up these records when you do your setup for those. But then you've got HubSpot. HubSpot needs to be authorized. Then you've got your website, your webinar platform. You've got all these other platforms that sit around the outside, and you really need to make sure that they're all set up to be authorized. So while Google and Yahoo are getting a bit stronger on what they will and won't accept into inboxes, this isn't a new thing. So I think we've been doing it for the whole time we've been in business, so about 7 years. It's really just a detail thing to make sure that you've got set up. So there's a couple of different components to this. So what I want to show you today is just how to get that information. And the first thing I'll show you, Carol wants to switch to my screen. Thank you, Carol. So in HubSpot, this is a free portal. So it's on all the free mix. So I've gone to settings, and then I've gone down here on the left-hand side. Under website, you've got a domains and URL section. And so what you've got here, you've got the ability to connect all your domains, and then you've got a button here that says connect an email sending domain. Now you see in my case, I'm on a free portal, so that's locked. And when I click on that, it says to me, hey, you need to upgrade to Marketing Professional. So you don't actually need to upgrade to Marketing Professional to be able to verify your email sending domain, but you do need to be on Starter or above. So really important, if you're on a free tier and you've been using HubSpot to run your email marketing, you won't be able to connect an email sending domain. To make that a little bit easier, HubSpot have lowered some of the pricing on the starter plans. So they've moved to a new pricing model, which means that for about $20 per user per month, you can go up to a starter plan and you can activate that email sending domain. So we can get something happening. I'll jump over to our portal though. So please excuse the domains that aren't set up at the moment. We're not using those right now. So you see this is our portal. This is active. We have a lot of domains in here. So here's our primary domains. If I scroll past all the secondary ones and the redirected ones, you see here I've got my email sending domains. Now, what's really good from a knowledge perspective, I guess, is just I can see here with a pretty simple traffic light system which ones are configured correctly and which ones aren't. So refuelcreative.com.au, green light, that's authenticated correctly, great. I'm all good. I can see here though that I've got two other domains that we use in the US. We don't send email out through those at the moment, but you can see here that they're partially authenticated, and it also shows me that there's no DMARC policy. So that's part of these changes. But what HubSpot do is they'll walk us through it. So I'll pick this domain here, which is Digital Adelaide, which used to be in our portal. And HubSpot is going to show me what I need to get set up. So I need my DKIM records. Pop quiz. Do you know what DKIM record is, Ollie?
I have no idea. I don't know what it stands for, but I've heard recently someone say that DKIM and SPF were kind of like your doctor having their medical degree on the wall. So, and I quite liked it because
it's good.
It's good.
So we're going to call you Ollie DKIM SPF.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So domain keys, even I can't remember what the I and the M are, but the first part is the domain keys. So if you have a look here, these are very similar to your standard sort of domain records. So you see I'm missing a record, but I need to create a CNAME, a nice simple copy button for that. And then you can see the required data for the other one is here, so I can copy that and paste it in. So we use Cloudflare for our DNS hosting, so pretty easy to just copy it into Cloudflare and get that sorted. So DKIM is part of this setup. Now, then you go to your SPF record. And really helpful here, what HubSpot do is they show you what your current setup is, and then the required data. Now, this one here with the SPF records is the text record. So the mistake a lot of people make here is you'll see here our SPF record has a few different servers in. And it looks a bit confusing, but if I walk you through it, it'll make a bit more sense. So basically we have this V equals SPF1 at the start, so that tells everybody that this is our SPF record, and that's our primary one, number one. And then you can see here I've got multiple different includes. So I've got an include for spf.google.com. I've got an include for servers.mscv.net. I've got an include for sendgrid.net, and I've got an include for amazonses.com. So what I'm doing there is I'm including every server that I want to be able to send email on behalf of this domain. So the solution here is not to copy this record and replace this current data with this record. The solution here is to copy this and paste it in here so that it's after amazonses.com and before the all at the end. Okay, so we can add multiple servers to this to add to them over time. If you're using IP addresses instead of the fully qualified domain names, your record will look a little bit different, but not substantially different. So, and these records can be reasonably long if you've got a complex setup with multiple servers. So you paste that record in, and then at the end you've got the little, if I just zoom in on this, you've got the little, what do they call that? Tide?
Yeah, tide.
Yep.
It is.
All. So basically what we're saying there is that they have to be included or it'll fail. And then the last one is it's saying to me I don't need to worry about a demarc policy because that demarc policy already exists. So I'm not sure how many people on here are using Cloudflare. Whoa, cool. But what I'll just do is jump over to our Cloudflare account so you can get an idea of what this looks like in reality. So first of all, I've got my 2 domain key records here, and you can see that those are linking over to HubSpot. So those are all set up and working correctly. And then if I scroll down a bit further, you can see here's my DKIM certification. Here's my demarc policy. So my demarc policy is reasonably straightforward. It just says if it fails, it sends us an email to info@Refuel Creative. And then my last one is my SPF record, which we just talked about. And you can see those are the servers that are allowed to send email on behalf of this particular domain. So if you don't have access to something like Cloudflare, if you do have access to something like Cloudflare, it's a reasonably easy process to just copy and paste those records over. If you have an IT provider, you probably don't have access to your DNS records, so it's a matter of emailing the IT provider and asking them to do it, but making sure that you remember to ask for all of these records, so the DKIM, the SPF, and the demarc, and then getting the check to go through with HubSpot. Now, hopefully for most of you, you've already done this, but you will need to do this for every email, every domain name that you're using to send an email out. All right, so don't forget a couple. So you can see here I've forgotten a couple. What would be really annoying for me is if we wanted to send a newsletter tomorrow using one of those domains that weren't authenticated. So this will be a reminder for me this afternoon to go in and make sure I finish setting up those other couple. Because we need those policies set up. So here's what I'm missing. So the demarc is what I'm missing on this one, which I didn't show you on the other one. So let's do that right now. So missing record text. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over here to do a quick search for my refuelcreative.com domain. Get a mode of my DNS. So it said I want a text record. So in Cloudflare, I can go to add record, and my type here, I'm going to change this to TXT, and my name that I asked for was demarc, and then the required data here, paste it in, save it, all done. So now I can go back to HubSpot, I can go check again, and you can see that's picked up straight away. It's one of the reasons we like Cloudflare. It generally comes through basically immediately. So I've just got one domain left to do, but you can see that was reasonably easy. What I find for a lot of people when we're talking to clients and things, it's really just a matter of knowing where that domain is, where to find the setting, and knowing that you have to do it. If you've been a HubSpot customer for a little while, you might find that it's been missed at some point in your setup, or if your domains have changed, something like that, it's going to need to go back and make a change. This is a particularly big problem with portals where you don't use HubSpot for your website, so your domains are handled externally. That's what I find anyway. What do you reckon, Ollie?
Yep, exactly. I've got one thing that we asked actually a little bit is that do you need to do that for just the domains that you use as marketing emails, or also for sales emails, so the one-on-one emails?
I would do both, because if you're using them for sales emails, inevitably somebody's going to want to send one out as a marketing email. A lot of sales emails though, they might look like they're sent from HubSpot, but they're actually sent from your mail server. So we generally don't have to worry about that, but yeah.
I guess the question's often coming out for people who don't really use marketing email in HubSpot, but as you've shown, it's pretty painless to add HubSpot, to authenticate it, so it's like really a 5-minute job, so basically do it.
Well, I mean, once you're in there, it probably takes you 5 minutes to do one and then another 3 minutes to do the next one. So, yeah, I think it's probably worth doing, particularly if you need to go back and forth with IT. It's better off just giving them one big list and getting them to go through it. But I've been, you agree. You mean you agreed with me, Ollie? Wow. Yeah. So I would make sure that you set that up, because nothing's going to ruin your day as any HubSpot user really, like finding out that the domain that you need set up isn't set up when you need it. So that's why we have so many domains set up, so that we've got them ready to go when they need to be used. Have we got any other questions coming through, Ollie? No, not yet.
No.
Cool. And the other one that sales sometimes miss, there's an interesting gap sometimes with HubSpot, where if you've got HubSpot marketing, you don't think about what sales can do, or vice versa. So if you're using the email workflows and you're building out workflows that are going to send emails through HubSpot when something happens, you definitely want to make sure that those domains are set up for that. All right. So, no more questions. We might power on with our little mini audit.
Yeah.
So the audit that we look to do with these accounts, we do this with clients and prospects. We just work through the account and go, like, here are some core things that we want to look at, and just see what changes need to be made to the account to make sure that you're up to date and ready to go. So we do most of this, well, I guess the first half, the really important half, happens in the settings section. So the cog's up here. And the very first thing that we always want to check is the user screen. I would say half the time we find that there's always users in here that shouldn't be in here anymore.
Yep.
And so what we really want to do is go through and clear those out, and make sure that their contacts are reallocated, their licenses are reallocated, but most importantly that they no longer have access to your information. So you can see here on this screen, I've got a few users. I've got some deactivated users here. This tells me who is and is not enrolled in two-factor authentication. Your CRM data, super critical that that's protected with two-factor authentication. So we'll need to follow up on that, see who hasn't got access. We also really like to check who's got super admin access, because I think 75% of the accounts we've audited recently, everybody was a super admin.
Yeah. And
Everyone gets a prize.
Some people who weren't in the company still being super admin. So yeah, that's obviously a security issue. So that's to be avoided.
Huge risk. So it's really important to make sure that when you're offboarding colleagues and staff, at worst case, deactivate their account. Now, if you've been a HubSpot customer for a while, that's a relatively new function.
Yep.
2 years, maybe.
Not even, I reckon.
So you can see here, Justin is currently a deactivated user. Now, the good thing about deactivated users is I can reactivate them. So we have a couple of deactivated users here that are on maternity leave. We'll reactivate their account when they come back from maternity leave. But if we have these accounts open when they don't actually need access, that presents a security problem even if it's outside of their control. So a user who's not in the workplace anymore, even if they are returning, if they're not enrolled in two-factor authentication, there's a big security gap there, and we want to make sure that we have that locked down. We've seen this time and time again with Facebook business managers, things like that, people on leave who get hacked, and then they're able to access data. So we look at the people, we look at the seats that are allocated, we can look at the permission sets, the level of access that they've got, so that can be changed. There's Teams functionality here now, their status, when they were last active in the CRM, whether their email address is linked, whether their calendar is linked. So really I can get a good picture here of when the people were created, what level of usage they've got in HubSpot, and whether they've got their permissions correct or not. Okay? So we look at this and we go, okay, it always comes up, are all of your users actually requiring super admin access? That's the first part. And you can see we've got a few there. And in our case, yes, that's true. They do need super admin access because we've got more developers than usual. And we can go through and make sure, okay, have you actually got your email set up? What else is connected, etc. Now, if I go to remove a user, so I remove them from the account, what HubSpot's going to do is prompt me to just check what to do with their assets. So this just gives you an opportunity to go back in there and go through their assets, make sure that they're reallocated and nothing's missed in the transition. But you don't actually remove the deactivated user from these until they're removed from the database. So that's one of the cool differences between removing them and deactivating them. So in this case, if this was a normal client, we'd be going through this and saying, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 super admins. That seems like a lot of super admins compared to your overall user account. Does everyone really need super admin access? Okay.
Generally, a good ballpark is 2 or 3 super admins. So you don't want just one, because then if you lose access, you're in trouble. But yeah, generally, if you can limit it to 3, that's probably a good rule to follow.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that your seats are all used. So if you have, let's say, 10 sales enterprise seats, which is the base rate normally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, making good use of those. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seats for service professional. Cool. That's all covered. And then you can go through and make sure that the rest of the permissions are set up as well. All right. Very important to clear those out. Now, I mentioned a couple of things in passing there that I'll just come back to. Got any questions, Ollie?
Not that I can think.
Cool.
No.
All right, so a couple other things I mentioned in passing. The seats tool will let you see which seats are allocated to who, and you want to make sure that this is full if you've got the licensing, you're paying for it, so you want to make sure that you are. Under the teams though, you can create set permissions per team. You can apply your team members to those teams. That just helps you set up who's got access to what and understand where things go. If you're on an enterprise level plan as well, then you can turn on some content petitioning and really separate those out completely. So in our case, it's all the one business, so that's relatively easy. But if we had US people and our Australian people, and we wanted to make sure that the content they saw was separate, we could do that in the permissions. And that is a really big thing to keep an eye out if you've upgraded over time. So we find a few people who started off with starter or professional, they got onboarded correctly, then they needed to upgrade to enterprise or professional at some point, and no one's gone through and helped them with that. So it's really important to make sure that you get that set up as you go. There's your permission set, so you can create custom permission sets. So go through and turn those all on. Massive time saver when you bring on new staff if you've got set permission sets that have been approved by IT and your cybersecurity people. All right. And then if you've got big groups of people, you can create preset user access permissions as well. Cool. So the next thing we would look at, again, along security lines, is under users and teams, you've got your integrations option. And we want to look at the connected apps. Because these connected apps have access to quite a lot of your information. And if you're not using these connected apps and they've got access to your information, again, if they get hacked, then you get hacked a lot of the time. So HubSpot do a lot to minimize your risk there. So these are mostly approved by HubSpot, but we want to make sure that we're just not opening ourselves up to any additional risk by removing those ones that we're not actively using. So the first thing that we'll do is over here on the alerts tab, you can see I've got no alerts, but if there is an action to take, an update required for a plugin or something like that, it would pop up in your alert. And if no one's been maintaining your HubSpot portal, you probably find that there's a few different alerts. Zoom in particular has been updated over the last 12 months. I'm trying to remember who else has been updated that we've seen. Not sure, but there's been a few. So in our case, we are using HubSpot for our entire business. We integrate it with everything that we do. So we've got a lot of integration here, and you can see that. So there's nothing wrong with having a lot of integrations, but there is definitely something wrong with having integrations here that you're not actively using. Okay, so we would actually see it as being a positive if you've got a lot of integrations that you're actively using. Means that you're limiting data duplication, limiting double handling, you've got it all in the one place. But we would question some of them if we don't see them being used very often. I think the one that we see the most is probably the WordPress plugin.
Yep.
And then we go onto your website and we find that your website's not WordPress anymore. We definitely want to remove that.
Yeah, there's also a lot of cases where you've got, for example, Eventbrite and another, integrations that do, Humanitics, that do quite the same thing basically. So a question generally when we go through the audit is, do you use both? Or do you, even if you do you really need both connected to your portal? Because sometimes it's, we've got the same generally with video platforms. Generally, one has been used in the past, and a new one, like Wistia, got brought in. And do you really need the former one, for example?
So, and that's a good point actually, because sometimes you might only be using the new shiny one, but you're still paying for the old one, and you've got it connected. So it might be a good opportunity there to save some money and complexity in your tech stack. I've actually found one that we don't use anymore. So seamless.ai is not one we use anymore. It's just a matter of clicking the uninstall button, and then that will get removed. So what it won't do is remove the data that Seamless has put into the CRM. So you're protected from that perspective. But yeah, you can see that we use quite a few here. And then I guess the next part that we would look at is, Ollie brought up video platforms. You can see that we use Wistia, and we also use 23. We use those for different purposes. But if you have videos on your website and we don't see an integration like 23 or Wistia, that's generally one that we would say to you, hey, have you considered something like this? By using one of these more video marketing platforms, you're able to really drill down onto who's watching your videos, how effective is video in your marketing and sales, and really get clear on that. You can even build ad audiences for your meta ads, your LinkedIn ads, your Google ads around people who've watched your videos. We can have gated forms that sync all the contacts over into HubSpot. So there's a lot of benefits to having those platforms set up. But yeah, if you weren't running any videos, we'd say don't worry about it. But if you are using a few videos, then we would definitely be recommending that you get those set up. And then probably a couple other things. So Ollie's going to talk about what's new in HubSpot at the end. But with Commerce Hub launching in Australia, sorry, spoiler alert. Do I have a spoiler alert button? With Commerce Hub launching in Australia now, we would usually be looking to see that your finance system is linked into HubSpot. That'll allow you to sync your invoices into HubSpot onto the contact records and make use of their Commerce API. And so if you don't have that in there, then potentially there's some opportunity around actually measuring the overall return on investment of your marketing, which we want to make sure is set up. For those of you who are doing a lot of email marketing, you will see we've got a couple here that say built by 7th Sense. We love 7th Sense. We tell everybody about 7th Sense. 7th Sense is an artificial intelligence platform that goes through and looks at when everybody in your CRM is most likely to open their emails, and then you can actually customize the send time on an individual basis based on when they are most likely to engage with your email marketing. So I've been in marketing for a while. I've been in many robust discussions around what time we should send that newsletter. We should send it on a Thursday afternoon, we should send it on a Saturday morning, we should send it on a Monday morning. Really, there isn't a best time to send a newsletter. There's a best time to send it to an individual though. So, and I love the debates and discussions we get into with customers around this, because we use it ourselves and they go, hey, I always get your email on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. And that seems like the worst time of day to send me that email. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Did you read it? Yeah, I always read it. Cool. So sending it through at that time of morning helps us get cut through. And that's really what we want out of those emails. So it's we've seen up to about a 20-25% increase in people opening emails based on using 7th Sense. So if we see people sending a lot of email, we would generally be recommending that as well.
I think people often think that 7th Sense doing the the exact same as the HubSpot, send through time zone, which isn't, isn't bad at all. But it's the next level up. It's not through, you send it at the exact same time and the exact same day, depending on the time zone of your user. It's you are sending that email at the time they're most likely to look at their email.
I can hit send on a newsletter today, and Ollie might get it at 4 o'clock today. I might get it at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Carol, who's running our video today, she might get it at 9:53 on Friday, because that's about what time she gets in. And so we're all going to get it to suit our own circumstances. So these days of flexible work and flexible work hours, I think that's a much better way to go. All right, so we would make sure that the tracking code is installed on your website. So we would go to the website to verify that. But you can see here, we can see the script that needs to be added. And we can make sure that we've got all tracking set up and just review this. We would go through and make sure that we review your domains, which we just looked at with the email. And we would basically work through every page here and just go, is this set properly? Has something been forgotten here? Has something changed that hasn't been set up yet? Can be quite a lot to keep up to date with the pace of innovation on HubSpot sometimes. So it is really helpful to be able to work through it slowly and work through it in an audit. And I say slowly, but I'm taking a bit of extra time to explain this, but it'll probably take you maybe half an hour to go through all the settings and just give them a once over. And if you weren't in the organization when HubSpot was set up, hugely beneficial exercise. Because even if it's technically not an issue with how it's set up, it may be an issue to you and you may learn something that you want to change for your organization's whole setup. All right. Questions?
No questions at the moment.
Oh. All right. So what we'll do from here, the next thing that we like to do is go and work through a couple of the key functions from a marketing perspective and make sure that you're making good use of them. So the first of those would be your marketing emails. We would be going through and looking at your how many emails were delivered. We would look at what your open rate is. We would look at your click-through rate and just see what the overall health is of those emails and how often that you're sending those emails. We might even just go in and make sure that your emails are being configured in the right way. And one of the big issues, Ollie, is...
With sending the emails?
Yes?
Sending them as regular emails instead, when they could be automated. There's that.
Okay, there is that.
Which one were you thinking of?
Well, you mentioned right before we started about the buttons instead of CTAs.
The buttons, yes, sorry. So, yeah, using buttons instead of CTAs, especially now that HubSpot has that brand new shiny tool with the new CTAs, and you can make them look really the way you want, right? We find that very often people use buttons instead of CTAs, so you can't really track what they're doing that well with your emails. So really just get on the CTAs. They're very easy to create, and then you can add your email to a marketing campaign as well, add that CTA to the marketing campaign, and really get proper reporting about what people are doing with your email.
And so CTAs can be, so call to action is what it stands for. CTAs can be a lot more complex than just a button, or they can just be a button. So this one's a bit more complex, but you can see it's just drag and drop. It's got an image, it's got some text, and it's got a button, and we can then consistently use that across our website and our email marketing. But you can also then do other things with your CTAs, like create lists of people that clicked on the CTAs. You can change information on a CRM record based on the CTAs that people have interacted with. So this opens up a whole world where You can put different CTAs in based on different personas, and what you know from the CTA that they click on, we can then tag them as a certain persona as a result. We can put in CTAs that say, do you use HubSpot or Salesforce? And when you click on the HubSpot one, it saves into the CRM that we know that you're a HubSpot user. So there's a whole range of things like that we can do. And the other thing is, of course, we're getting the click-through rates of those CTAs, but we would always look at the campaigns tool as well, and just make sure that you're actually using the campaigns tool correctly. Make sure that we know where your customers are coming from, where your revenue is coming from, and what the overall impact of every different marketing touch point is. So you have CTAs in your emails for every different article, every different thing that you want people to click on. You can get a lot more reporting off that on the back, and it doesn't take a hell of a lot of extra time to put that together, especially if you're using that CTA more than once. So what we want to be looking at here is, let's find one let's look at this one. So we want to look here at the revenue that's attributed, contacts that are coming through, influence contacts. The main thing that we're looking for here is, are you even using the campaigns tool? Because if you aren't, this is always a huge opportunity to help you with how you're using it. But we go through and see just how it's being used and how the ROI reporting is coming in. We would always look at your social to make sure that your social profiles are set up and everything's running smoothly. And then your ads as well. Yep, cool. Ask me later. So in the ads tool, we can see how many contacts are coming through from your ad campaigns. Are your ad accounts linked up? Are there any errors? In this case, we would have failed our own audit. We're not running any ads at the moment, so that explains that. But it'll be able to tell you what the return on investment is of your ads. So if we say to you, hey, are you running Google ads? And you say yes. And when we go here and there are no Google ads here, then we know that there's a big opportunity for you to be making better use of those. There's a little bit more that we would look at in terms of landing pages and things, but I'm conscious of time. What I'll just do from here is just dive over to workflows, because we are going to want to go through your workflows and make sure that they are all, if you're on professional or above, first of all, that you're using workflows, because it's actually more common than you'd think for people to not be using the workflows or to not be using them well. But also we just look at a couple of things to make sure that they're up to date. Now you can see in my case, we don't have descriptions next to these. My new favorite thing in HubSpot, I reckon, is if you are new to the organization again and you're not sure what all these workflows do, you can see it's missing a description and you can now add it with HubSpot AI. So it's going to look at what this workflow does, and it sends a Slack notification LE with website visitor details when someone's on the website. So this is a good hygiene task to do. This now has a description, and if I go back to my workflows, you see my description is now there, so that makes it a lot easier for me to see top level what's going on. But we also have, for a while now, had folders as well. So what we want to do is we want to have folders for all of our different kinds of notifications, so that our workflows are nice and clean and organised. And then just that these needs review ones, we need to go through those, and that's probably an Ollie job.
Sounds about right.
Good. But yeah, the ability to use AI now to create those descriptions saves so much time in understanding what's going on. So we would just go through that and check that over. make sure that's all good. The last thing that we do for us is we would go through reporting and data. So if you haven't seen this yet, this is the new HubSpot navigation. So this might look a little bit different to what you're currently looking at. But you can go through your reports and your dashboards and just say, are you making good use of the dashboards? Are you making good use of the reports? And then we would also pull some reports on whether you're actually getting the lead volume that you should be getting through your different landing pages. Did I miss anything, Ollie?
I think because we started with emails, one thing we'd looked at as well is subscription types, because we've seen anything from the very basic HubSpot setup with marketing information, sales email and service email, I believe. That's the to people having or organizations having like 20 different subscription types. So obviously we review that and we look at whether a few subscription types could be merged, could be deleted, or if you only have the default one. The problem with that is that if you send a newsletter, for example, through the marketing subscription, what people are going to do if they unsubscribe to that is that they'll unsubscribe to pretty much everything you send them. When if you've got a different subscription type for your newsletter and they just don't want to receive the newsletter anymore, they only unsubscribe to that. So that's another thing that we look at.
Absolutely. So that's under in your settings. That is under marketing and then email and then subscription types. And you can go through those there. And now that I've seen this was a good call out, Ollie. So you can just make sure that your tracking is turned on. And one thing that comes up a little bit is send frequency. So it's possible to set a send frequency cap so that you're not bombarding people with email. In a big enough organization, it's possible that there might be 10 people emailing a prospect at the same time. And if we know that if they're getting 10 emails at the same time, they're not going to be able to open all of them. So you can actually change this to make them receive only a set number of emails. So let's say we only want them to get 4 emails a week or 4 emails a day. This is one of those things that if somebody has turned it on at one point, it's not front of mind for a lot of people to go back and find it. So it'll frustrate the living thing out of you until you realise. So it's worth just going in there and checking to make sure somebody hasn't set that up. And again, the bigger the organisation, the more likely that is to have been set up at some point. Unless somebody just thought that it was a good idea. All right. So, Ollie.
Yes.
In our remaining 12 minutes, I think we'll cover any questions.
Yep.
Which haven't come through yet.
No.
But I'll hand over to you to go through all of your wonderful HubSpot updates.
Oh yeah. I'll start with a few. I won't go through everything that's new in HubSpot because there's about 10 different updates per day. I'm maybe exaggerating here, but but one that came through because we talked about email again. One that came through this morning, I believe, or this morning if you're in Australia, is being able to have multi-object previews and tests for emails. So if you personalize your emails, which you should first, you probably know that you can add contact properties. So the great classic would be you start your email with hi, first name, and HubSpot will take the name of your contact. And if there's no name, it will use a default filler, how would you call it? Value for your email. And you can use also ticket properties or deal properties, company properties. You can use all of that in your email. So if you send a good example probably is that if you have an automated email sent to a contact about a ticket when you haven't heard from them for, let's say, 7 days, then you can include the ticket ID as the reference, but you can still use obviously the contact the contact properties. And so now you can preview an email like that with all of those properties filled. So if I'm setting up that email, I can set Ryan as my preview contact. I can set a specific ticket as the preview as well. And I can look at whether everything actually works fine with that email and that it's good to turn on. So that's one that's, right from this morning. Another as well, if you send emails through workflows, I'm thinking especially for like events, when you set up a simple workflow, for example, to send an email to contacts because you've got an event in a couple of weeks, we found, because we've done it before, that then that workflow can be forgotten about, and then a couple of days after the event, you're still sending people an email about that event. So now you can set your workflow to finish at a certain time, or to turn off automatically at a certain date of time, which is very valuable in those situations. What else about email? By now, if you're using the AI assistant in HubSpot, you probably know that you can do almost everything. You can use the AI assistant to create almost anything. And when I say almost anything, you couldn't generate the preview text of your email up until very recently. I think that was yesterday, that one.
I had a call with HubSpot this morning about what was new, and they were quite proud of the fact that you can now use it to draft your social posts.
Yeah.
So if I just give it a go, so I can put in create a light-hearted post about HubSpot updates. Please include some information about new things added to HubSpot this month. Cool. And then we hit generate, and the robots are coming, Ollie. And there you go. It chucks in some emojis. It still needs a little bit of formatting, but that's pretty good. Improved chatbot functionality, enhanced reporting. And they're quite happy about the fact that the hashtags are added in as well.
Yeah.
So the bots are doing their own research on the hashtags there. One thing I haven't explored yet, so warning alert. No, okay. So you can still generate the AI images, but you can't generate it here. So you've got to find the image from somewhere else and then go back. So if I choose our Facebook page, you can now see this is what this Facebook post will look like. And I will need to generate the image that goes with it through another tool or another interface in HubSpot. But I'm sure that they're working on bringing that out. And this will only get better and better from here.
And another recent update, because we talked about user reviews as well, and that I'm pretty excited about and that I have to work on for us, is user working hours that HubSpot released recently. So I'll use probably an example to we've got tickets, and we want when people have an issue, they want a video done or something, and they create a ticket. We probably want that ticket to go to Carol because she's our videographer, and not to me because you don't want me to make you a video. But our problem is that Carol only works 3 days a week. So what happens if we automatically assign that ticket to Carol on the day she's not working? Then that ticket just sits there until she's back. And so now you can set up working hours for your users in HubSpot. And so there won't be assigned new conversations in your inbox or tickets if they're not in their working hours, which I find is, something
Awesome.
to work with, so something that I will work with, and I'm sure this guy is happy about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you haven't done that already.
But yeah, there's plenty of, I'm hoping as well that this will evolve to being able to flag people on holidays, for example, and that when Carol again is on holidays, we know she's on holidays for 3 weeks, then we can reroute all of those tickets to someone else without having to, update every single workflow, because at the moment that's probably not an efficient way of doing things, or doing it manually. So I'm hoping that comes through. So HubSpot, if you're watching, that'd be great. Thank you.
I am really looking forward to when they can cater for people taking their holidays as well. Because the workflows are getting better and better.
Yep.
But we still see a few things allocated on weekends and stuff like that. So there's still some tidy up to do there. You can do all that through Operations Hub, but obviously most things in Operations Hub require a developer. So it'd be great if we could go in there and just say, I don't want anything during a weekend.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Great. You'd love that.
Yeah. It really annoys me.
That was pretty much it, I think, for...
Yeah, I think that the
Updates.
AI stuff is getting really good. The new navigation that I walked through is probably one of the bigger things.
Yep.
It's going to be much more.
There's a lot of things actually that updated, because we've got a new view in the marketing, social calendar.
Oh yes.
And there's the inbox that has changed a little bit, and there's something else that I should remember.
And really the whole HubSpot tool has got a lot more functionality in it now. So the new navigation is really important. I did tease at the start that the Commerce Hub was now available, and so to use Commerce Hub, you will need to connect your Stripe account, because if you're in Australia, HubSpot are using Stripe as the payment processor. And so you can now build out all your products in Commerce Hub, send off links. You can create quotes. Well, we've been able to create quotes for a while, but now you can create a quote and have them just automatically pay. But you can also create your payment links, customize what they look like. So here's a professional services example. Projects, donations if you're a non-profit. So let's go with professional services, and I'll show you this really quickly. Meeting with Ryan. $100 meeting with Ryan. You can edit the quantity if you want to have more than one meeting with me. We can't really make this optional because it's the only thing here. You can even, there you go, allow customers to set their own price. So if you don't think that meeting with me is worth $100, you could set whatever you want. And then you can do your frequency as well. So is it monthly, quarterly, semi-annually or annually? So if I save that, that's fine. I can make it one-time use if I don't want anyone else to be able to access it. Maybe it's at a unique price or something like that. But it'll automatically create the deal and move it to closed one. You can have discount codes, you can collect different information. It's quite a bit that we can put there, and then we can preview what that looks like. Where this gets really exciting though, and what we're seeing in the Hug test link, and what we've been testing this for a little while. So here's my payment link. So if I send that link that HubSpot gives me to somebody, they can put in here that they think the meeting with me is worth $100. They can put in their details and it'll automatically create everything, link to my policies, etc. Where this gets really powerful though, in my mind anyway, you can do your subscriptions in HubSpot. So if I go back to my meeting scheduler. Now I can create a scheduling page. And I can do this just like I normally would. Hug test. Cool. And I can collect payments from my meeting link as well. So I can say, here's my test link. So people can choose to meet with me. They can put in the amount that they want to pay. And it'll automatically create that scheduling page. Now if I go and get my link. Here you go. So payment is required to book the meeting. It's a 30-minute meeting. Here you go.
Are you booking a meeting with yourself?
I am booking a meeting with myself. And there you go. It's prompted.
I was going to press the button. Wasn't fast enough.
No, Ollie. Can't believe you weren't fast enough. So you can get like the power of something like this. And this kind of functionality, some of this has been built into tools like Calendly for a while for meeting bookings, but having this ability completely within HubSpot, you don't need a separate Calendly subscription. It's going to automatically sync with your deals. We can do a lot more with our workflows once these are booked in. I think this is going to be huge. There is cost to using it, of course. There's a cost to everything. But unlike all the other HubSpot hubs, Commerce Hub, there's no cost to using it per month. It's per transaction. So Stripe will charge their payment fees, and then HubSpot's charging a small fee on top as well. So you can get a really good idea here of how powerful this will be. This can be really good for SaaS companies as well on having all of that in the one place. And obviously the analytics off the back of that as well.
Yeah.
All right. No last questions coming through. So with that, I reckon, have you got any final words, Ollie?
No, apart from thank you for joining us. Hope it was useful. If we don't have any question, I think we would have been clear enough.
If you've got any questions, then send them through now. Otherwise, feel free to contact us on our website. We have a Google Ads webinar coming up that we were told very specifically that we needed to plug. If you're running Google Ads, keep an eye on our socials. 16th of April, we'll be running a webinar all about Google Ads. Might save you a few $1,000s depending on how much you're spending a month. So make sure you jump on that. And we have the program for the HubSpot user groups coming out for the rest of the year. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. We are desperately planning to add a couple more in-person events this year. So we had one in November and we loved seeing all of your happy faces. And we even had a couple of HubSpotters turn up, so that was great fun.
Yep.
And Digital Adelaide tickets are on sale now as well. So if you're looking to network with other marketers and to hear how other people are using digital marketing, Digital Adelaide moving to Adelaide Oval this year. So it's a great opportunity to check that out. And if you send us a sneaky email or a DM on the socials, we might be able to even send you a promo code and get a discounted ticket. But no more questions have come through, so I reckon we'll wrap up there. Thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next hug.
See ya.